Hey, it's Pavi, and welcome to my February newsletter. Now, I know that I'm a few days late, but I did want to give a really good outlook on how the month of February actually went and a few updates for the month of March. So, three main things in this newsletter. First one is I'm going to be giving an update on my voice biomarker for Parkinson's project. So, this wasn't the main focus of the month, but it was definitely one project that I did make progress with in terms of just knowledge and knowing what I have to do next. So, I'll go over that. Second is Pi. So, I'm a part of TKS, which is a program, and in TKS, we do this little consulting challenge for our company. Now, last year, if you've been following me for a while, I did something with Walmart. So I worked at Walmart Blue Labs, ended up interning there. And so I'm doing the same thing, but with a different company. And it's a little bit different because it's more focused on economics. So the entire month was really, really focused on that pie challenge. And I'm going to go through a few learnings I had, even though I can't disclose too much until next month. And finally, I'm going to go through some reflections I've had over this month and some plans I have for the next month, going based off those reflections. And at the end, a little remind update as always. So let's hop right into the February update. Okay, so let me start off with the voice biomarker update. So TLDR, one line, diagnosing Parkinson's with your voice. So if you've never really heard about me talking about this project, hop back to a few newsletters or check out a video that I released back in November-ish about me creating the project. So basically, over the past few weeks, about a month, I've been working on implementation. So I did recently get funded by 1517, which I talked about in my last newsletter about just kickstarting the project. But I talked to some mentors because I was really confused on how the implementation of something like a diagnosing software would even work within healthcare, and ended up getting really interesting answers because now I have a two-step process to follow when working on implementation. So the first thing is actually running my own experiment. So the general consensus or prediction is that a biomarker in your voice will occur 2 to 5 years prior to the actual diagnosis of Parkinson's from a doctor. And if we can detect that early on, we'd be able to run other early biomarker tests like facial biomarkers or neurological biomarkers. And after we identify that, you can diagnose Parkinson's a lot earlier than it already is, start the medication earlier, and then increase quality of life and decrease the risk of dying sooner. So that's the general consensus. But to do that, you have to actually validate that there's a biomarker in your voice that occurs about 2 to 5 years prior to the actual diagnosis. So for that, I have to run a human experiment, but just in the way of me analyzing people's voices. So what I'm going to be doing over about a month or two is doing a data collection experiment. So I'm going to go to hopefully some type of clinics or hospitals after getting approved, after getting the whole experiment approved, going and running the experiment on three groups. The first group is going to be people that are aged around 60 to 70 years old because that's the typical onset age of Parkinson's. And the people that have Parkinson's of different, races and ages, and different lifestyles, but have them all be living in the area of Toronto because I need that part to be controlled because I'm not looking at geographical, but I'm more so just looking at the vocal biomarkers. So I'll have those people, let's say I have 50 people aged 60 to 70 of X gender, X race, etc. Then, hopefully, I'll be able to find people related to them, whether it be, siblings or maybe just cousins or even spouses. And they hopefully are maybe of similar age and they'll be of similar lifestyle. And through that, I can then run the same experiment on them, but they don't have Parkinson's. So it'll be same lifestyle, age, gender, whatever, but different neurological changes happening within them. So one has Parkinson's, one doesn't. After that, I'll be able to first identify what biomarker occurs in people that have Parkinson's versus people that don't. Then, after that one is confirmed, it runs the second part of the experiment, which is trying to find that early biomarker. So then I'm going to be running the experiment on maybe people that are age 55 to 60 because that's the maybe earliest onset stage of Parkinson's, which is 50 years old, but let's say we go with 55 to 60. Then from there, I'm going to try to find people that might be of similar gender, similar lifestyle, and then see if they have any indication of this biomarker. I don't know if they're going to have Parkinson's, but maybe they have Parkinson's running in their family. Then I might be able to say, well, 4% of these people that were age 55 to 60 actually had the same biomarker, and based on this prediction, they're going to get Parkinson's. Then you've confirmed that there is a biomarker present in people early enough, 2 to 5 years earlier before diagnosis, and that is going to lead in the right direction. After that, I can go get this approved by hopefully the ethics board and then do the experiment on a much larger scale and actually run it through my models to see if they're going to get Parkinson's or not, and just overall detecting and finding the parameters, but also just the indications that they're going to have Parkinson's. So that is a general idea of what has emerged in my brain with my mentors with this project. But to do this, it's a lot more difficult than expected because I require a lot of funding and approval from ethics board. Knowing that I'm only 16 and not a medical professional, it's very difficult to get that. So the next step, or really the first step to actually getting anywhere near this, is to find a medical professional that is working on Parkinson's research, so they can help me out and they can maybe do that portion of things with the medicals and the regulation things, and I can focus more on the processing and data analytics and understanding how the data is and possibly extracting any new and novel information. Or I find any companies to work with. So that is what the March of March is kind of going to look like for voice biomarkers, to just find the people that I can work with, propose this to them, and then start creating the experiment to propose to the ethics board. So if you're watching this newsletter and you know any neurologists or anybody working in the space of Parkinson's, or are just any medical professional that think this is a cool idea or have any feedback, please let me know, because I'm really looking towards finding some people to help me out with this project, and also we'll be outreaching to a ton of people. But that is the update on voice biomarkers. Okay, so I very clearly did not spend a crazy amount of time on voice biomarkers this month, but I did still get an advancement as to what I have to do. But really, what I did spend a lot of time in February was on Pi. So this is Problems Incentivized by Economics, and it's a little consulting challenge that us here at TKS, which is a program I'm part of, that we did. So the challenge is actually coming to an end on Monday, which is tomorrow. But I did want to give a little breakdown of 3 key learnings that I had throughout the time doing this. The first thing was to kill ideas quickly. Now, again, only having a month to solve or provide this new product to this company, it's a very big challenge, especially because there's a little hint in there. The company has over 90% of market share in their designated field, so it's very difficult to even pitch anything to them without thinking, have they already done this or considered it? So we actually did multiple sprints when trying to come up with ideas. And we did things like a beachhead market sprint, which is essentially identifying what market would be the best place to implement this product before any other market, to show that there is a possibility and potential. We also did a ton of content consumption. And it was so interesting because we had certain external meetings with people and experts in the field. And it's funny how one meeting could get us to look into a different rabbit hole and then kill an idea completely within a day after looking into it for like 3 days. So we realized the importance of external meetings and also just content consumption and tons of research. But we did end up killing like 10 or 12 ideas off the bat in the span of just 3 or 4 weeks, which is great. But also takes a lot of mental load because you have to keep going. But we also understand is that those are great reps. So once you've done that once or twice, you're super fast with killing, but also researching ideas. Number 2, play on your strengths. So in terms of this project, there's a lot of technical components, economics, implementation, general information, research, external meetings. It's so important because we were a team of 4, and so we each had our own strengths to play on. So for me, I really focused on the technical, but also just tons and tons of research and bringing in new ideas, and also saying, okay, hold on, let's look at this, and let's look at that. And just finding a ton of research was my thing. So really playing on that strength helped us bring the project even forward with each person's strength. Lastly, is make assumptions, but only when they make sense. So with numbers, it can get very difficult with economics to try to not make assumptions because there's not every single stat out there. But when it comes with information, it's very hard to figure out when to make an assumption and when not to, because considering back to this company, they have over 90% of market share. So we never really always knew what they were working on and what they weren't. So anything we did, we realized for certain some of the solutions we were thinking of, the company was already looking into it, had already killed a project, had already done it. So instead, we're like, okay, we need to research. Anytime we come up with some solution, we have to go onto their website and make sure they're not doing it, and not just assume that they're not doing it. So it's a very logical thing to think of, but we learned it the hard way. But overall, that was what was really focused on during Pi. Killed tons of ideas, came up with an idea, submitting the deck very soon. And so more updates to come with that next month as to how the challenge overall went in terms of quantifying it, whether if we got to pitch to the company or if they considered our deck or anything like that. But really, it was a great time and I learned a lot. All right, and final thing to mention for the month of February is that I was thinking a lot about the next few months. So this month was really grind time productivity month in terms of Pi and working on voice biomarkers. But I ended up realizing that I wasn't really thinking about other aspects of my life and other things that I wanted to do before June really started, before the summer started. So there's 3 main things that I'm planning on working on over the next few months. So I'll be receiving a lot more updates on that. First one is implementation for the voice biomarker project. I already kind of talked about this, but really finding a medical professional, a clinic, or a hospital to help me craft that experiment, run it by the ethics board so I have their approval as well, and then really start with data collection and then understanding the hardware I need to collect all the data, the software I need to process all of it and analyze it, and the compute and all the costs associated with each and every one of those. Second thing is actually earth shots. So I've done a lot of these sprints over the past 2 years, but Earthshots is this time really focused on solving one of the world's largest problems, whatever it might be, really not focusing on tech, but more so just figuring out a way to solve it. So it's going to be interesting. I want to see if I can bring that project into the summer and maybe even work on implementation with my team. So that's something interesting. And then the last thing is focusing on finding a great internship over the summer because I know that last year I had a few internships and each of them provided so much value, and I really want to continue that growth over the summer. So that means also trying to increase serendipity, and so reaching out to tons of people, asking for internships and seeing where I want to intern, but also you'll be seeing a lot more weekly LinkedIn updates so that my network can know what I'm working on. So that's basically everything that has to do with the month of February and also what I'm thinking about for the next few months. All right, and final little update. As always, I have a little Remind plug at the end of all my newsletters. But Remind is a podcast I work on with two friends, and we recently decided to revamp Remind, if you get the little joke. But we realized that a lot of the content we were talking about and our discussions weren't really free flowing and they were very structured. And so this month, what we decided to do was revamp the whole podcast, put out a LinkedIn page, Twitter, really post more and let you guys know when we're posting, but also narrow it down into speaking more about people and world leaders and also really interesting people, philosophers, and hone down on some of their theories and then explain our own opinions about them. So we recently had a podcast episode where we talked about Andrew Huberman, which is a neurologist, insane scientist. I've been obsessed with this podcast. He runs Huberman Lab at Stanford University. And so we talked a lot about him and his theories, and also what we learned from like dopamine and sleep and all that fun stuff. So if you do want to keep up with Remind, you guys can follow us on Spotify and also check out our LinkedIn because we're going to be posting a lot more frequently there. But Remind has been revamped into a higher quality but lower quantity podcast. So anyways, that is a general update for the month of February. Hope you enjoyed, and I will be providing more updates through a weekly LinkedIn post. And if you want to reach out, feel free to email me or check out my LinkedIn or just comment on this YouTube video, really anything. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the end of March. Bye!